Hi, welcome to our webinar. Today we're talking about the FSTA Human Studies filter on the Ovid platform. And so thanks so much for coming. I'm just going to dive right into the content. So researchers often need to use or want to just zero in on human studies. And as you will know, as an FSTA user, there's not a tick box that you can just tick to filter down to that kind of studies in this database. But we've been asked if there's a way that you can filter for human studies. And so we've devised a filter for you. And so if I go to my first slide here, you can actually see the filter. It is something that you would just copy and paste, and I'll show you that in a minute, into the Ovid search platform in FSTA. And then you can add it to a subject search, so any search that you need. Now, the filter itself has two different parts. It has the first part, which is population groups, not animal models. And so that's the way that we're focusing in on people without the animal studies. And so that is pretty good at actually getting human studies, although it will sometimes get things like consumer responses because there's quite a lot of consumer studies in FSTA. So that might not be human studies in the sense that you're looking for them, but everything in there is about people. And then the second part of the filter is actually going broader, because although the first part is all about people, it doesn't pick up every human study. And so this one looks at elements, words that researchers use to basically identify participants in a study. So men, women, patients, females, males, subjects, participants, or adults, and also students or cohorts. And so it just takes all of those and then says, again, we don't want anything that's focused on animal models here. And so it casts a broader net. So when you're using any filter or building any search, of course, you're looking for the balance between precision and recall. So you're trying to find all of the studies that you want to find without having too many extraneous results. So this filter is attempting to do this for you. So one thing that I want to point out to you is that the students part of the filter is there because in a lot of abstracts, especially from journals that are or from researchers for whom English is not necessarily their first language, I have found while doing the research for this filter that they'll talk about students. So university students are the participants, but they're not using the word participants, they're using the word students. As you can imagine, in FSTA, there's also quite a lot of other research about students. So how to teach students food science and technology effectively. One thing that I discovered is that if you do an additional filter after you've run your whole search and don't use book, then if you focus on journal articles and perhaps also reviews, because that can lead to studies or conference proceedings, by avoiding the publication type book, that can be a good way to avoid pretty sizable chunk often of false hits, because you'll find that the book was intended for students to read, and it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with human studies. So this filter in the iteration that was on the last slide didn't have anything particularly about young people, so babies and children and adolescents. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't pick up a lot of studies that are about infants or children or adolescents, because it does. But if you want to be more exhaustive, knowing that you are catching all of those studies, then I would suggest that you add an additional set of terms, infants or children or adolescents, to the filter. And that will just, again, look in the abstract for those terms. And so cast your net a little bit more widely. But otherwise, you'll be getting a lot of children results depending upon what the subject part of your search is, but you won't be looking for them as exhaustively. So that depends upon what it is that you need for the research, which decision you make. So I will tell you that having the truncation here and only extended by 1 is all quite purposeful, because, for instance, if you only truncated adult and let it run on to any length, then you will probably, because we're dealing with food, get results about adulteration. And the same thing with male, but female, it doesn't have a longer extension. So you could put female and then add the 1 at the end, but it's not necessary. So that's just explaining why you have the different forms for the different terms. Of course, if you come up with a different formulation that works better for you, then it's appropriate to use it. But this is, in all the research that I've been doing, has been the way that has worked best. So now I'm going to actually go into FSTA on Ovid and so demonstrate how you use this. So the first thing I want to do actually is get the human study filter so that I don't have to type it in, but just copy it. And the place that you can get it is if you just search for FSTA IFIS and go to our website, then here under FSTA, under support, you have user training. And then you can find the platforms, and we're going to use Ovid and go to FSTA and Ovid. And then here we have guides, including the Human Studies Filter Guide. So I know that we will send out a link directly to this guide as well, but just to let you know that you can find it that way. And there's other useful materials on those training pages too. So here it is for you. So I'm just going to copy and paste. Here, when I go back to FSTA, I want to make sure that I'm in the advanced search mode, and I can paste it into the box, and you can make the box bigger so you can actually see it. The formatting of this was based on that PDF, but it doesn't matter. It still works just fine. You don't have to fix the spaces. And you ideally should untick the map term to subject heading box. But if you don't, then because you've got all the field tags in this search, it will read it correctly anyway. So hit search. Here in my search history, I open it up and I've got the search itself. So I should mention that if I went back to the PDF and I was interested in using the thing that captured more results about children, that part of the string is available here too to copy. But I'm going to go back. And so now I'm going to build the second part of my search. So go back to my search box. I'm going to do a really simple one. I'm going to use the subject headings. So and look for chocolate. There it is. And I'm going to go ahead and explode chocolate. And that means I'll pick up all of these narrower terms. And then also within Ovid, if these narrower terms have even narrower terms beneath them, those will also be included. So I'm just going to add that to my search, and there it is. I've got about 9,000 results there. And then I'm also going to do my search as a keyword search. I will truncate it. And I would probably, if I were trying to be exhaustive, build this more. I might use Cocoa and other things. But for this demonstration, I'm just going to do it quite simply. Search it as the keyword, and then combine these two. So I have all my chocolate concept together with an OR. So I've got the 15,000 results there. And then I'm going to combine the filter with the chocolate concept, and I combine that with and. And so that gives me the 1,400 results, and I can look at them and start to see whether or not they're the kind of human study that I need. And so this one here, it has the population groups. So that was part of the first part of the filter that I mentioned is the one that tends to be best focused, most focused on human studies, fewer false hits, although it will always depend on what the subject is and sort of what bend your research is taking. So that one looks fantastic, I'll say. This one also has population groups, and it does look like it's a study where there's different people looking at it, but then when we get here, we can see that this one is sort of about consumer response, so and consumer preference. So it might be a human study, but not in the same kind of sense that we want it to be. So we can also go and take our search. So if we go and expand our search history so that we can see the top one, we can, if we want to do a separate search for just the first half of the filter. So we've got it there, and then we can combine it with our chocolate. And so we've only got 611 results there. And then we could, if we wanted to, we could look through those, see how many of those are turning out to be consumer responses that perhaps we don't want, and how many are focused on what we do want. And if there are a lot that are consumer responses, then it can give you an idea of a not that you might want to do to make it so that your results are more focused. You always have to introduce a not quite carefully, because a not will remove results, and once they're removed, you can't see what's gone. So you would definitely want to spend more time exploring what your results were before you did the not. So if that makes sense. If we go back to our search results though, there's another way in which using not can be really useful. So we've got this line 7, where we've got the chocolate plus the first half of the filter. And then we've got this line 5, where we've got chocolate plus the full filter. And we could go and we can say, we want to see the results with the full filter, but take away the ones with the first half of the filter to see what broader net is doing for us, and whether or not we want to refine that, or we can just scrutinize those more carefully also. So when it's a subject that's less likely to have a lot about consumer responses, so if we were doing something about like walnuts or I don't know, sweet potato or something, where it was more likely to be about the nutrients, more focused on it, then we could say these will probably not need so much filtering. They will need some filtering, but they won't need so much. But these, the part with the second half will need more, chances are. So if we look at 5.7, then that means that we're seeing these results that have to do with this half of the filter, having removed the ones that have to do with this half of the filter. So we can go and start looking at them and seeing whether or not they're useful. So this is about teeth. So you can see it doesn't have anything about population groups, but it's a cross-sectional study. So if you have the filter here, if you've run it, you can go into more to save it in your search history. So if you don't have a result already, you can create an account there. If you do and you've saved it, then you can name it. So I'm going to name it Human Studies Filter, and I'm going to just leave it as a permanent search so that I can use it anytime I want to. And so now if I go into view my saved searches, I've got it there. I can see the whole thing if I want to. I can edit it should I want to, etc. And then if I log off and log back into FSTA for another session, then if I want to view my saved searches, again, I'm prompted to log in. I can run it. And once I do, it appears in my search history. And I could then add it to another search. So for instance, about almonds. And then I'm going to do a really, really basic search here. Oops. I did it actually in basic search. So I'm going to remove that and go into advanced search for almonds. You want to be in the correct search mode. I'm going to do it as a keyword. In this case, and then add them together with and, combine with and I get 318 results. And so this one's about the effects on wrinkles. If I start to look at these, I'll find that a few of them will probably be, most of them will be about human studies, but a few will probably be about like insect pests that are a problem for almond growers. So again, you need to find the balance that you want between the precision and recall, but using this filter will get you a really good start on the way. So I hope that's helpful. We will send through the links about the supporting information. Don't hesitate to ask us any questions if you have any as you're trying to use the filter, or if you have any feedback about it, about how to improve it, or tips that you come up with yourself. And so thank you so very much for coming today, and good luck with your searching.
Thank you, Carol. That was fantastic. If you do have a question that you would like to send to us, please do so on the chat function. Otherwise, please feel free to send us a message either through our social medias, our website, or via email.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.